everybody. Thank you very much for coming to this talk. Drew asked us if we would do this, and Venerable agreed, and it's really a privilege to introduce him to you. I have been, my name is Sister Khema, and I'm an American nun. I'm from the American Buddhist forest tradition, which is probably new to your ears, but America now has a senior level monk who is willing to start a tradition in the United States. So I'm the first nun, and it's a pleasure to work with Venerable in what his kind of new adventure is. Buddhism's going through some changes, and everything does that, and there's many, many traditions in the United States, and one of the things that's being passed around a little bit is this little book, if you hold it up for just a second. That is from the Buddhist World Summit, and he's been nominated and then confirmed as the first representative for the United States to ever have a representative for Buddhism at a World Buddhist Council in Asia. So this is kind of a privilege, and their goal is to retrace and try to reclaim the original Buddhist practice. So it kind of makes sense that they came and found him in the forest in Missouri, and he had no idea they were going to do this, and asked him if he would do this. And the reason it makes sense is because he spent 12 years in Asia trying to figure out what the Buddha did. And then he decided, after being offered several different monasteries over there, that he would come back here and stay in the United States, because Americans deserved to be able to have a experience in Buddhism without cultural inflections in the Buddhism, and to learn it completely in English. And so that's what's being attempted.
How many people have been meditating before this? There's basically two different kinds of meditation that are being taught in the world today. One kind of meditation, probably 99.5% of all the people that are practicing it are practicing this particular kind of meditation. And I call this kind of meditation one-pointed concentration. What I just showed you was the other kind of meditation. And this kind of meditation is called a tranquil wisdom type of meditation. There isn't much difference between one kind of meditation and another. The difference between the one-pointed concentration that probably all of you have practiced in the past and what I just showed you is that one extra step of relaxing. That changes the entire meditation. It's a real important step to put into your practice. Now, I have another question for you. You've been meditating. Why? Why do you meditate?
It
Why?
is interactive.
It is interactive, yeah.
Relax.
Why meditate? What's the big deal?
To bring peace into my life is why I do it.
To bring peace into your life. Why else?
Clear the mind.
Clear the mind. Of what?
Clutter. It's a way to enjoy the absence of thought.
Those are one-pointed concentration answers.
It's a way of connecting with the universe and with oneself.
Okay. Let me give you a definition of meditation and see how it flies. Meditation is watching how mind's attention moves from one thing to another and seeing that everything that arises is part of an impersonal process. Sounds like a lot. What do I mean by an impersonal process? You were sitting and your mind was on your object of meditation and you had a thought. Did you ask that thought to come up? Is that thought yours? You see? It's impersonal. Everything that arises is part of an impersonal process. Every feeling that arises, every thought that arises, everything that pulls your mind away from what you're doing is part of an impersonal process that we mostly take as being personal. And that's the cause of suffering. Why is it the cause of suffering? You have a pain in your knee. Okay? Did you ask that pain to come up? Did you say, I haven't had this pain for a long time? It's about time for it to arise now. No, it came up because the conditions are right for the pain to arise. What you do with what arises in the present moment dictates what happens in the future. Karma. You have a choice of what you do with these things. Now, in the instructions in the meditation, I said when a sensation arises, you first start thinking about the feeling. Now, we're made up of 5 different things. The psychophysical process is 5 different things. We have a physical body. We have feeling. Feeling is not emotion. Feeling is feeling. Feeling is pleasant or painful or neither painful nor pleasant. That's all feeling is. We have perception. Perception is the part of the mind that names things. You see this, your mind says cup. Part of your mind that said that is perception. You have thoughts and you have consciousness. Now, this feeling that arises in your knee, when it happens, the first thing you do is you try to think the feeling. And the more you get involved with the thoughts about the feeling, the bigger and more intense the feeling becomes. And the more you're taking that feeling personally. I don't like this. I want it to stop. I want it to go away. So the first thing we have to do is let go of our thinking about the feeling. Now this is emotional too. It doesn't matter whether it's a feeling in your knee or sadness or anxiety or depression or fear or anger. It doesn't matter. You treat it all in the same way. The first thing that arises is a painful feeling. And as soon as that painful feeling arises, our habit is to try to think the feeling away. But thoughts are one thing, and feelings are something else. The two never meet. So the first thing we have to do is learn to let go of the thoughts. Every time mind's attention moves, there is a tension or tightness that arises in our head. Now you're all pre-med students, you know what a brain is like. You have a membrane around your brain. And what happens every time your attention moves from one thing to another is it contracts a little bit. There is a tension and tightness. So, part of the instructions is to let go of that tension and tightness in your physical body and around your brain And when you let go of that physical tightness, you let go of the mental tightness at the same time. Mind and body are interconnected. So you let go of that whatever distraction there is, you let go of the thinking about it and relax. Now you have a clear space. This clear space, your mind is very bright, your mind is very alert and agile. You're able to see when your mind starts to get heavy. You bring this clear mind, this pure mind, to your object of meditation. What's your object of meditation? For loving kindness, it's a feeling of loving kindness, and then feeling the wish, and then sending that wish to someone else. So, every time a thought arises, there's tension and tightness that arises right along with it, or actually right before it. In order to see, you have to have good working eye. There has to be color and form. Good working eye hits color and form, eye consciousness arises. The meeting of the good working eye, the color and form, and eye consciousness is called eye contact. With eye contact as condition, eye feeling arises. Eye feeling is pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. With eye feeling as condition, eye craving arises. What is craving? Craving always manifests as tension and tightness in your mind and in your body. Always. The craving is the beginning of the idea of I am that. I am my eyes. I am my sight. It's the I like it, I don't like it mind. If it's a pleasant feeling, I like it, I want to hold on to it. If it's an unpleasant feeling, oh, I don't like it, I want to push it away. With I craving as condition, clinging arises. Clinging is all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, all of your concepts, all of your ideas, all of your stories about why you like or dislike that feeling. Then you have your habitual tendency. Every time this feeling arises, I always act in that way. What the meditation teaches you is how to recognize this process as process. It's impersonal. One of the things that really gets an awful lot of Westerners angry when I tell them this is all mind, everybody's mind works in exactly the same way. Oh no, that can't be right. It does. It doesn't matter whether you're an Easterner, if you're from Asia, if you're from Europe, if you're from Africa, if you're from America. Everybody's mind works in the same way. There's the physical sense door. There's the striking of the physical sense door with the eye. It's a color and form. Eye consciousness arises. Meeting of these three things is called eye contact. It's the same for everybody. With eye contact as condition, eye feeling arises. With eye feeling as condition, craving arises. With craving as condition, clinging arises. With clinging as condition, your habitual tendency arises. Everybody's mind works the same way. And we have a choice when your mind gets distracted. It gets distracted by thoughts. You have the choice to either let go of that and relax into it or not. Some people, they start meditating and they get these great thoughts and they think, I got to carry this one through. You don't need to. You can put a little red flag and say, come back later. And that's fine, then it will. If you get caught in thinking about, you're caught in clinging. You're caught in opinions. You're caught in concepts. You're caught in a lot of suffering. Now, there's a lot of healing techniques in this that are being taught in this college. Loving kindness meditation is one of the most powerful healing techniques I've ever seen. For a few reasons. One, your mind is happy when you're practicing loving kindness. And that's powerful in itself. And you're practicing your generosity. When the Buddha talked about meditation, he didn't say that meditation is just about sitting in a rock out in the forest somewhere. He said there's 3 parts to the meditation. The first part of the meditation is learning how to practice your generosity. What does generosity mean? It doesn't mean that I want you to give money, necessarily. You can if you want, that's up to you. But it means giving and helping someone outside of yourself. You give somebody else a smile. It makes them happy. You practice that kind of generosity all day. Watch how you change the world around you. And it's your choice. You can do that or not. I spend a lot of time teaching people how to smile, because almost everybody has resistance to smiling for one reason or another. I used to walk around with a mirror and I'd see somebody not smiling and I'd hold it up in front of their face and say, what are you doing with your mind? That's the external expression of what's happening internally. You want to be a good healer? Make them happy. Make the people that come to you that are suffering, make their happiness level rise. And you can't give something away that you don't have yourself. This is why practicing the loving kindness meditation is an important aspect of becoming a healer. An awful lot of people, they talk about compassion. What's the definition of compassion? You can pipe up anytime. What's the definition of compassion?
Loving someone else unconditionally.
That's almost exactly right. There's just a little bit more to it. It's seeing another person in pain, allowing them the space to have their own pain, and then loving them unconditionally. I used to spend a lot of time going to hospitals. When I was in Asia, anytime anybody got sick, they called me. And sometimes I would go visit people that were deathly sick. They were just about ready to die. Before I walked in the room, I reminded myself that their pain is their pain and it's okay for them to have it. I can love them no matter what. When I'd walk in the room, I didn't try to take their pain away. I can't take your pain away. Your pain is yours. I can make myself miserable and come down and be miserable with you, but my choice is not to do that. What I do, I allow them the space to have their pain. And as I love them, their pain lessens. Their pain becomes more bearable. If you tried, oh my poor dear, I feel so sorry for you. Well, if I walk in like that, I'm making myself miserable, and then I walk out and I haven't helped that other person at all. When I walk in and I start joking with them, making them feel good, making their mind uplifted, before long their pain becomes much less. They're coming up to my level of awareness, and they're accepting the love that I'm giving them. This is real important. I've been with people that were in comas, and the doctors walk in and they think they can say anything in a room that somebody has a coma. Ah, they're not there anyway, what difference does it make? No, not when I'm around. I'll kick a doctor out of the room, tell him, no, you can't be in here now if you're going to be speaking like that. They are very much aware, but they're not strong enough to interact in a normal way. So how do you interact with somebody that's in a coma? You calm your mind down, put your hand on their forehead or on their heart, and ask them simple questions. And wait for the answer to come. You ask them, is there anything I could do to make you feel more comfortable? And after a few minutes of having a quiet mind, yes, I'm really thirsty right now. Okay, so I go get a eyedropper and I start wetting the tongue and wetting the lips. Makes them more comfortable. But spending time focusing on happiness, on wishing them well, and radiating that feeling to them is the healing aspect of being with them. When I used to walk into the room, people would say, you know, everybody else that comes in, they're not really very comfortable, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to say, and they'll straighten a pillow, and then they'll open a door, or open a window, or close the window, and then before long they walk out. And they said, you know, when you walk in, it's like fresh air coming in the room. What's the difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing? What they're doing is being afraid of being with somebody that has pain. They're afraid of their own pain. They don't want to accept it. They want to run away from it, so they do busy things and then they get away from it as fast as they can. And I walk in and I completely accept their pain. I know what pain is. I've broken enough toes, I'll tell you. I used to walk barefoot in the forest. That's not good for toes, but that's another story. The more you can accept the fact that there is life and there is death, the less afraid you become of it. And the less fear you have, the less fear you project. As you focus on wishing them well, wishing them happiness, wishing them a peaceful mind, feeling that feeling, and radiating that feeling to them, the more you can do that, the more peaceful and calm and accepting they are of their situation. I used to know a doctor, he was a friend of mine, he hated needles, absolutely hated needles. And he would give somebody a shot and he would go right before he gave it to him. I told him I didn't ever want to see him with a needle in his hand around me, I'll tell you. What he was projecting was his own fear. You can't project fear, you have to project love. The more you can stay with that uplifted mind, the more healing you give to other people. What's the easiest way to stay with an uplifted mind? Smile. I tell you what, this is what I want you to try. I want you to try for 1 week. Everybody in this room, smile all the time, into everything. Smile. And when you can't smile, then laugh. This really sounds hokey. When you start smiling, and you smile into everything, you start noticing how much more clear your mind is. You start noticing how much faster you can notice your mind grabbing onto something and becoming tight. And when you laugh at that, it's easy to let it go. I've had students that when it's easy, and when it's hard. They get in some kind of emotional thing, and I come along and say, well, laugh at that. I can't laugh at that. I'm serious. Yeah, I can see that. Well, laugh at that. Who wants to be serious? See, the whole thing is, what the Buddha taught us is how to be happy. What's the best way to practice being happy? Smiling and laughing. Then you start having joy come up in your mind. Joy is one of the enlightenment factors. Joy is a very necessary part of the practice. Because when you don't have joy in your mind gets very heavy and gets tight. When you can laugh at being caught by your sadness, depression, anxiety, restlessness, anger, whatever, when you can laugh at that, all of a sudden you're going from I'm mad and I don't like it to oh, it's only this anger. What does laughter do? It changes your perspective. It changes your perspective from the heavy, I'm that and I don't like it, to it's only that. That's easy to let go of. What do I need this anger for? What do I need this upset for? So the real skill of learning meditation is being able to learn how your mind's attention moves from one thing to another. But seeing that all the time. It's not just while you're sitting. Now, we have these things that are called hindrances. Hindrances will stop you from being clear. Hindrances are where your attachments are. What are the hindrances? Lust, I want mine. Hatred, I don't want mine. Sleepiness, dullness. Restlessness, anxiety, doubt. Whenever these arise, they will stop you from being aware. They'll stop you from being clear. And you start identifying with it, and you make yourself miserable by wallowing around in it. The biggest hindrance is restlessness. What is restlessness? All your wandering thoughts. All your thoughts that pull you away and you kind of ho-hum around, thinking about this and thinking about that, not really paying attention to what you're doing. You ever have that happen while you're studying? So what do you do with that? Restlessness is called a distracted mind in Buddhism. How do you let go of a distracted mind? You let go of a distracted mind, one, by not moving your body at all. When restlessness arises, it is an unpleasant feeling, and you feel like you got to do 20 things and you've only got 10 minutes to do it. That's the feeling of restlessness. You do this, you say, oh, I forgot, I got to do that, and you do that, and oh, I didn't finish this. You know what I mean? When your mind is doing that, what you need to do is sit down for a few minutes and collect your mind. Let go of that feeling. Allow that feeling to be there, but don't take it personally. Let it be there and relax into it. After 4 or 5 minutes, then all of a sudden you become efficient at what you're doing. You do this, finish. You do that, finish. You don't have to worry about coming back and finishing this or that. That's how you let go of the restlessness. Now, the hindrances, when they arise, they don't come one at a time. They kind of like to gang up on you. It's kind of like getting kicked when you're down. The restlessness arises, I don't like that feeling. And then you start thinking about the feeling. Now remember, I told you, thoughts are one thing, feelings are something else. You can't think a feeling. It doesn't work. You have to let go of the thoughts and allow the space for the feeling to be there. Why? Because it's the truth. When a feeling arises, it's there. Anytime you try to fight with the truth or make it different than what it is, that will cause you more and more mental upset and physical pain. People in the hospital, they have these big pains. I've walked into rooms where they're moaning and groaning really loudly because the pain is so intense. What do? The first thing is I tell them to start relaxing. Take it easy. Let go of those thoughts. The pain is there. It's okay for it to be there. By the time I would leave, they're laughing and smiling. What does laughing and smiling do for a sick person in pain? A lot. It lets the endorphins flow. The endorphins are your painkiller. Start feeling better. The more we can be aware of what our mind is doing in the present moment, and we choose to have an uplifted mind, a happy mind, a smiling mind, the more we affect the world around us in a positive way. What's happening right now in this country? A lot of fear, a lot of greed, a lot of dissatisfaction. That's what the government wants you to get involved with. How many people here have a television and watch it? Uh-huh. You know, the biggest favor you could do for yourself is go buy a nice sized brick. And you know what to do with it. I've had students that they read 4 or 5 newspapers in a day. And I'd go, what in the world are you doing that for? Well, I have to know what's happening in the world. I know what's happening in the world. I don't read any newspapers. I don't watch any television. Anything that's really important, somebody will tell me about it.
That's true.
Except, I was in Burma and I was doing a silent meditation retreat, and I did it for 2 years in 1990. When I came out of my retreat, I found out I was a history major. Okay, I found out that one of the most fantastic historical events happened and I didn't know about it. Russia fell, and I didn't hear a thing about it because I wasn't talking to anybody. And I started getting real bummed out about that. I started thinking, oh man, I missed that. How could I miss something like that? And then I started thinking, well, how has that changed my life now? And I started looking, and it's the same now as it was before. No big deal. It all depends on what we feed our mind. And literally, I mean feed. When you have restlessness and you try to control the restlessness with your thoughts, you're feeding that restlessness and it gets bigger and more intense. What were the instructions in the meditation? When you have a thought arise and you see that, you let the thought be there by itself, relax, and come back to your meditation. Now everybody has these little pink brochures. These are a mnemonic system that will help you remember how to meditate. You recognize that your mind is distracted. You release that distraction. You relax. You re-smile. Smiling is an important part of meditation. And you know, it's sad, but nobody teaches that but me. It's really weird. I've done many, many retreats. I've been practicing meditation for 35 years. I was, for the first 20 years, under the very strong impression that meditation was supposed to be serious. And you aren't supposed to smile, and you aren't supposed to be happy, and if you get any joy arising, don't be attached. You've heard that before, eh? Well, I'm here to tell you that joy is an enlightenment factor, and it's good to experience it, and don't be attached. How do you not be attached to joy? Joy is a happy feeling. Pain is an unhappy feeling. You treat them both in the same way. You allow them to be there, relax, and come back to your object of meditation. But the thing with the hindrances is that when they arise, we always take them personally. This is me. This is my sadness. And every time we get involved in taking a hindrance personally, all of a sudden this little trouble starts to turn into Mount Everest. And there's no way around this. I can't think this problem away. You can't go around it, you can't go over it, you can't go under it. When you develop your sense of humor about yourself, and you laugh with yourself for getting caught again, then that huge mountain of problem in front of you, you find it's only a little bump in the road. Now, what's the difference? The difference is when you laugh, it changes your perspective. When you laugh at yourself for being caught, again, slow learner, then you're not caught anymore. Then this huge problem that doesn't have any resolution at all, it's nothing. What made it such a big problem? Because I took it personally and I tried to think this feeling away. And the more I tried to think about it, the more I worried about it, the more anxious I became about it, the bigger and more intense it became. What to do? Change your perspective. Learn how to have an uplifted mind and use that uplifted mind as much as you possibly can. Now, this is the same with a dull mind. You ever have those days you go into a class and you feel like going to sleep? Well, that's dullness, isn't it? Dullness in Buddhism is described this way. It's like butter that's been in the refrigerator and it's gotten really cold, and you have a fresh piece of bread out of the oven and you try to spread that too cold butter on the bread, and it just doesn't spread. That's what dullness is. That's what sleepy mind is. Now, the odd thing is, the way to let go of the sleepiness is by relaxing. In Buddhism, they call sleepy mind or dull mind, they call it a contracted mind. It gets real tense and tight. When you let go of that tension and tightness and take more interest in what you're doing in the present moment, that sleepiness and tightness will fade away. Interest is a real important aspect of the meditation, and so is having fun. If you have fun learning something, you get interested in it, and you don't want to stop. So what to do? Start having fun when you study. Have fun while you're in class. Take an interest in what you're doing while you're doing it. Everything becomes easier when you do that. See, the whole thing is, what the Buddha taught us was how to have an uplifted mind. Why do you want an uplifted mind? Because great things happen for people that are happy. All kinds of magical things happen when you have an uplifted mind. Now, I teach meditation in a very, very Bible Belt place in Missouri. And this lady came and she wanted to know about meditation. So I taught her. And she started getting so happy that good things started happening for her. And she got suspicious, and she came to me and she said, "Are you teaching me magic?" And I said, "Well, in a way, I'm teaching you the magic of having a happy mind." Scared her. You want good things to happen to you? You want to meet real interesting people? You want to have fun projects to do? Be happy. Smile. And laugh. The first 20 years of my meditation, I did a Burmese style meditation. I developed very deep lines in my face. When I was meditating, I was trying. I didn't have what you would call an uplifted mind. I had an alert mind, but it wasn't real uplifted. And it took 20 years to learn how to do this. It was difficult. I did a lot of meditation. Somebody asked me one time how much meditation I did, and I started thinking, and I went, well, I don't count only 1 month retreats or less. They're just a walk in the park. I've done 12, 14 3-month retreats. I did an 8-month retreat. I did a 2-year retreat, real intense. I've done a fair amount of meditation. But I went to the end of the meditations that I was taught, and I wasn't satisfied with it. So I started going to the original teaching of the Buddha. Started going to the suttas, and I started noticing some very interesting things. One, the Buddha was teaching us how to be happy. I never got that message in 20 years. Nobody ever told me that it's okay to laugh and be happy. I was supposed to be serious all the time. This meditation is serious stuff. Well, if it's right, you want to be seriously happy. You see how your mind feels when you start smiling and you start laughing? Your mind feels great. Okay, practice that all the time. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're washing the dishes. Smile and be happy. That way you can notice when your mind gets distracted and starts to get pulled down. Now, what happens when your mind gets on something and starts thinking about something is that your mind will jump from thinking about this to thinking about that, and before long you're 1,000 miles away thinking. And they're just little thoughts that don't really matter at all. But that's the nature of mind, to do that. When you start smiling, when you start laughing, what you start noticing is your mind doing that, and you let it go very easily and smile into that. And come back to what you're doing while you're doing it. And be happy with that. When you have restlessness arise while you're studying, you got a test coming up, you have a lot of anxiety, you have this pressure because you want to do well on the test. All of a sudden your mind is thinking about, oh God, I better do good on this. I really need a good grade. Every thought about that is pulling you away from what you're studying. And before long you'll have that thought of worry and anxiety that's really me, that's mine, that's my problem. And then you'll think about this, and you'll think about that, and you'll think about that, and before long you have to go back and read the same sentence over again because you weren't paying attention to it. When you practice meditation in the right way, you see that your mind is distracted, you smile into that distraction and let it go, and come back to what you're doing while you're doing it. All of a sudden you become more efficient with what you're doing while you're doing it. You become really efficient. You absorb what you're studying really easy. Does meditation help in real life? You bet. It's about real life. It's about living in a way that you can have an uplifted mind all the time. Too many times people practice meditation so they can be calm while they're sitting in meditation, and then they get up from the meditation and forget everything they learned and go out and live their life in whatever way they're going to live it. But what I'm suggesting to you is you have to take your meditation with you and use it all the time. Watch what your mind is doing in whatever situation it is. We had a real interesting thing happen as we were coming from the East Coast out here. We stopped at a place to get something to drink. Got something to drink, started walking out. I looked at the side of the vehicle. It's all bashed in on one side. I said, look at that. And Khema was there. Now, Khema used to be a highly emotional person. She would fall apart like you can't believe. And she would be crying and yelling, and it'd go on for hours before I started working with her. But we both stopped and looked and went, isn't that something? Somebody just, they got too close, and when they pulled out, they just scraped the whole side of the truck. Bashed it in. So we got under the truck and looked to see if there was anything that was really bad with it. No, we can drive. Okay, let's go. Didn't think about it after that. Didn't talk about it after that. That's what happened in the present moment. It was there. Yep, that's a problem. Have to solve it sometime in the future. Don't worry about it now. And continue. And be happy. Anytime you see that you have repeat thoughts are an attachment. You walk in the class and one of the students looks at you and they're mad at you, and they come up and they give you heck. What do you do when that happens? You get mad, you take their anger, you make it your anger, and you throw your anger back at them. And now you're saying things at the same time, and you really tell that so-and-so off, and they're telling you off at the same time. So you don't hear what they said, and they don't hear what you said. And then they walk away. What happens in your mind?
Keeps spinning around.
Just like it's on a tape deck, doesn't it? They said this, and I said that. Oh, I should have said this to them.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm right, and they're wrong. And then the tape deck happens again and happens again. And you happen to have, okay, class is over. You go to the car and you're thinking about that so-and-so. Are you really driving? How do you think accidents happen? I didn't see it. That car just popped up right in front of me. I didn't see him. Of course you didn't see him. Why? Because you were thinking about what happened way back when.
It could be the other way around too, where instead of getting angry at them, you take it on yourself and you don't release that.
Well, what I'm talking about is the repeat thoughts.
Right.
And how the repeat thoughts are showing you that you're taking a feeling, making it your feeling personally, And then you try to control the feeling with your thoughts. Then you go home and you say to anybody around, leave me alone, I've had a bad day. And you go to sleep and you toss and you turn. And you don't get real good rest. And you get up in the morning and you're groggy and you bump into things and it takes a long time to wake up. This can go on for days. Just from what happened, one small incident that happened way back then. So what to do? Recognize what your mind is doing and how to take care of that problem. Now, if you were practicing true compassion, somebody comes up and they get angry at you, and you see that they're suffering. You see their face is all red, and their expression is really ugly, and they're shaking because they're so mad. You know what that feels like, because you've done it too. So instead of paying attention to what they're saying and taking their anger and making it yours and throwing it back at them, you start sending loving and kind thoughts to them. It takes two to tango. It takes two to fight. There's only one fight. The fight lessens. And that person will either calm down and you can find out what the real problem is because it's not what they're talking about, or they'll go away. Either way, your mind stays uplifted and happy and you're ready for whatever happens next. See, when you take somebody else's anger and make it your anger, they go away. What do you do with the next person you see? Are you happy and shining and smiling to them? No. And you start treating other people through that anger. And it wasn't even yours to start with. That's a hindrance, isn't it? And it's a hindrance because you're identifying with those thoughts and with those feelings personally. And isn't it funny? I mean, honestly, isn't it funny? Look at how stupid my mind is. It's taking all this stuff personally. You laugh, and all of a sudden, it's not my anger anymore. It's only this anger. Do I want to carry this around and give it to other people right now? Not really. Let it go. See, that craving that I was talking about earlier, that I like it, I don't like it mind, it always arises with every distraction. Always. If you don't recognize that tension and tightness, then there's going to be a lot of thoughts and opinions and concepts and ideas coming up. And these things happen very quickly, and they happen over and over again until you're aware of what you're doing with your mind in the present moment and can let go of that. The whole point of learning how to smile and laugh into things is so you can see how you cause your own pain. There's nobody out there that causes your pain. You cause the pain to yourself. And what is that pain? Taking it personally. Grabbing onto it and saying, this is who I am. When in fact, it's part of an impersonal process. So let go of the I am. And then you start letting go of the pain. The more you practice smiling, the easier it gets to have an uplifted mind. And it doesn't matter. I don't care whether you say, if I walk around smiling, it's not going to be genuine. I don't care. Smile anyway. Why? Psychological testing. They said your mind doesn't know when you're smiling whether it's real or not. And when your mind sees that you're smiling, it says, well, I'm supposed to be happy now. The more you smile and practice smiling, the more clear your mind becomes. There's real advantages to practicing this as much as you can. The Buddha talked about it in real practical ways. He said, when you practice sending love and smiling, you'll go to sleep real easily. Now, I practice a lot. I have to admit I'm a little bit of a fanatic. It's okay to be a fanatic with some things. But when it gets time for me to go to sleep, I toss and turn for a good 5-6 seconds before I go to sleep. And when I go to sleep, I sleep very soundly. That's another advantage of doing this. When I wake up, my mind is alert. It's awake. There's not this groggy grumble, 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 bumping into things and where's my coffee? I need my coffee in the morning. My mind is alert. This is another advantage of doing this. Your dreams become very pleasant. And at first, you can have some real strange dreams. But when you radiate loving kindness into your dreams, they change and become very pleasant. Animals like you. There's been a lot of instances where I've been around animals that they're like attack dogs. I walk up to them and pet them, and the owner is going, "How did you do that?" I don't know. I like them. So they like me. People like you. Don't you like to be around people that are smiling and happy? How many people like to be around somebody that's grumpy and angry all the time? See? So practice it. Another advantage is that your face becomes beautiful when you smile. I used to give out mirrors to people and carry in their pocket. It said "smile" on it. This one lady in Washington, D.C., she was very beautiful when she smiled. And she told me she got in a fight with her boyfriend. And I said, "Did you pull out the mirror and take a look at your face then?" She said, "Oh, no, I wouldn't do that." I said, "Why? Are you afraid of cracking it?" But people that get into their anger, their face can get even black. And they're not pleasant to be around. So why do you want to give that kind of energy to other people? The more you practice smiling, the more you practice laughing in your everyday life, the clearer your awareness of what's happening in the present moment becomes. Now, there's a lot of people that really like to get into their intuition. How do you get into intuition? You smile and let that smile come into your mind, and then let everything go. Your intuition will start talking to you. It's a quiet little voice. But a lot of people don't hear their intuition because they're so thinking about so much other stuff that they ignore it when it comes up. They don't recognize it. Your intuition is something that it's always right. I've never seen intuition wrong. How do you get into your intuition? Not from a thoughting mind, from a quiet mind. As you practice smiling more and more, your mind becomes more at ease. You have more joy arising in your life. When you have joy arising, you have a mind that's really alert and is very quick at recognizing things. But this is something, again, that you don't just do while you're sitting in meditation. This is something that you have to carry with you all the time. It's kind of fun. Having fun and practicing meditation. How many people have heard those two things in the same sentence before? It's okay to have fun. It's okay to smile. It's okay to be peaceful and calm with yourself. Now, one of the things that an awful lot of people get caught with is we think that we're supposed to be perfect with everything that we do, and we don't meet our own expectation. Who doesn't love themselves then? Who is hard on themselves then? Who isn't practicing smiling and being happy then? You have to forgive yourself. You're not going to be perfect. I've never met anybody that is. So why criticize yourself? Why be hard on yourself? Learn from your mistakes. That's what mistakes are for. They come up so you can learn from them, so you don't do that again. But you don't have to come down on yourself because of it. See, the coming down on yourself is another form of a hindrance. It's another form of the shoulds. I should be better than I am. I should. I. Hindrances are very important to have, because when a hindrance arises, it is showing you where your attachment is. And if you want to have a clear mind, you let go of that hindrance and relax every time it comes up. As you do this over and over again, that hindrance becomes weaker and weaker until finally it fades away. When it fades away, you will feel a definite relief. It's like somebody takes the rocks off your shoulders. Strong relief feeling. And right after that, you will experience very strong joy. The kind of joy I'm talking about is only experienced through mental development. Everybody in life experiences joy in one way or another, but this kind of joy, it has a lot of excitement in it and it really feels good. Why? Because you've let go of an attachment. You've let go of a hindrance. Now, the joy is going to be there for a little while, and then it'll fade away naturally. When it does, your mind will become very, very tranquil and calm. You'll feel more comfortable in your mind and in your body than you've ever felt before. Very much at peace. This is what the Buddha called happiness. Your mind stays on your object of meditation without any effort. There can still be some distracting thoughts arise, but you see them really quickly. And let go of them very easily and come back. Now, what I just described to you is the first stage of the meditation. In Pali, they call it a jhana. Jhana is the first level of your understanding how this process actually works. I know that there's a lot of other traditions that use the word jhana as some kind of a ooh-ah kind of experience. With this kind of meditation that I'm showing you, it's a very natural experience. When I give a retreat, sometimes I give a 1-week retreat, sometimes I give a 2-week retreat. If people haven't experienced this feeling, by the second or third day I start questioning them very heavily, what are you doing with your mind? This is not a difficult stage to get into. And your understanding becomes deeper and deeper as you go through other experiences of the meditation. That's what I spend my time doing, teaching that sort of thing to people. Now, when I was in Asia, I was told that when I was in Thailand, they told me that if I wanted to get into a jhana, it was going to take me about 15 years of practice. And I'm talking about your being able to experience the jhana in 1 or 2 days. I had one student that in the first day that she'd ever meditated, she never did any meditation before, she got into the first jhana. Why do these sort of things happen? For this lady in particular, there are these things in Buddhism that are called hindrances. And there are these things in Buddhism called precepts. There's 5 precepts that you need to keep. It's a suggestion. This is not a commandment coming from anybody, but it leads to a happy life and it leads to a calm mind. Don't kill or harm living beings on purpose. Don't take anything that's not given. Don't have any wrong sexual activity. I'll talk about that in a minute. Don't lie. Don't curse. And that's one of the things that's happening a lot these days. You hear it on the radio. I mean, it's shocking to listen to the radio because they're cursing so much. They're using speech that's really offensive. Don't use speech that's offensive for any reason. Don't slander anyone, and that means divide one group from another. And don't gossip. What is gossip? It's making up stories about somebody else that you don't know whether it's true or not. Don't take any drugs or alcohol. These 5 precepts are reasonably easy to follow. And if you keep them, when you do your meditation, your mind will become very calm very quickly. Now, the precept on wrong sexual activity. The Buddha said wrong sexual activity means no sexual activity with someone that's too young. In other words, they're under the care of their parents or guardians. No sexual activity with another person's mate. No sexual activity with prostitutes. Outside of that, it's up to you. Why do you have this precept? Because when you break this precept, you're causing problems not only for yourself, but for other people too. Basically, the sexual precept goes like this. Anytime you have any sexual activity, if it causes pain to you or anyone else, That doesn't only mean the person you're having the sexual activity with, but any of their relatives or any of their friends or whatever, then don't do that. Don't have sexual activity that's gonna cause problems. So keeping these 5 precepts is reasonably easy. You've only got 5. I have 227. There's a lot of things that I can't do. Now, the taking drugs and alcohol doesn't mean taking medicine. It means taking drugs or alcohol to take the edge off. To, quote, have fun. Why do you do this, take this precept? Because you have the very real problem of breaking the other precepts when you break this precept. And it dulls your mind out amazingly. When I give retreat to people, I can tell somebody when somebody's been doing a lot of pot, and they might have quit for a year. After the second day, I look at them and say, how long ago did you stop smoking pot? How did you know that? Oh, your mind's so dull. Keep your mind sharp. Keep your mind alert. Don't dull it out with drugs and alcohol in the name of fun. If you want to have fun, smile and be happy. Okay? Now, anytime you break a precept, you can look forward to a hindrance arising. That's the way it works. When you break a precept, your mind will tell you right then and there, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. We'll forget it this time and let it go on. Then you sit in meditation and your mind is super active and troublesome, and there's all this anger and all of this fear and all this anxiety coming up. Why does it come up? Because of breaking precepts. And it might be from this lifetime or it might be from a past lifetime. Yes, there are past lifetimes. I can show you them. So the whole thing is learning how mind works, learning the way to improve the world around you. You like being around people that don't break precepts because you can trust them. You know that they're not going to lie to you. They're going to tell you the truth, or they'll be quiet, which is another way of saying the truth. As you start affecting the world around you in a positive way, the world starts responding to you in a positive way. Somebody from the BBC, right after this problems that they had in Burma in December, they called me up and asked me what my opinion of what was happening. What do you think the Burmese people should do? I said, not be angry. They need to sit down and start sending loving and kind thoughts to themselves and loving and kind thoughts to everyone else around them. Now, they've been practicing Buddhism for years and years and years. But they forget every now and then, because the current situation is such that they're being bossed around by a very few number of people. And they don't like it. So they're getting into their dislike of the present moment instead of learning to lovingly accept and radiate loving kindness. So they're perpetuating the problem. because they're into their dislike. They need to start uplifting their mind. And when they uplift their mind, the world around them will change. And that's what I told the BBC. And as I understand it, they put that all over Europe. This is how we handle our problems. Not by hating the government, not by indulging in what the government wants us to think about, but by practicing our smiling, practicing our laughing. Okay, I've been talking for a long time. Now, does anybody have any questions, comments, statements, anything?
Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. It really is.
Why is it so difficult? Why can't we just be like how we would like to be?
Old habits are hard to let go of. That's why. We start our life with liking and disliking things from mom and dad, and then it kind of expands over time, and we get very judgmental. And we have a lot of concepts that don't necessarily meet with reality. We want things to be the way we want them to be when we want them to be that way. And when they aren't, then what happens? We start suffering a lot. We have been doing this from time immemorial. Because there are lots of times when a Buddha's teaching isn't available for a lot of people. So they go on with their old habit of thinking and doing things the way they've always done them. It takes a lot of effort to have an uplifted mind. It's easy, but it still takes a lot of effort. And when it's hard, it's kind of comical for me, because I walk up to somebody and I say, "What are you so sad about? Be happy." Boy, I get a lot of comments. "I can't be happy now. This is happening to me." Oh, why not? You see? How does your mind feel when you do that? One guy he had cancer. He was very close to death. His body was just kind of melting away. And I walked into his room one day and he said, "Everybody out of the room, I just want to talk to Reverend." Okay, what do we got going here? And very seriously he said, "The doctor told me that I need to make out my will because I'm terminal." And I started to laugh. And I said, "So am I. Everybody is. It's okay to be terminal." And he started laughing and he went, "Oh, thanks, I needed that." I told him he was lucky. He has a more clear idea when it's going to happen than we do. So be happy. Send other people well. Wish them well. He did die. And I went to Thailand to give a retreat to a bunch of people, and when I came back, the day before I came back, he died. And the people that were with him said that he died smiling. Okay, that's a good death. He learned a lot in this lifetime to be able to do that. He wasn't afraid of it. And he was sending loving and kind thoughts to other people. So his rebirth, if you believe in that sort of thing, is very pleasant. The Hindus and the Buddhists both believe that your last thoughts before you die are very important. And if your thoughts are uplifting and happy, then you'll be reborn in a higher realm. And if they're not, then you won't be. So it's a real special time to be around people that are dying and reminding them of, you remember when you were so kind and when you were so helpful and when you made other people smile and laugh. You get them to remember those kind of things and get them to talk about those kind of things if they have enough energy to talk. Or just reflect on it. It's okay. Then when they die, they'll have an uplifted mind. You've helped that person a lot. One of the things that the Buddha taught was how to die. And he wants you to die completely, totally, from this moment and be reborn the next. As you can accept death, you can accept life. If you accept death totally, you will accept life completely. As you practice smiling and laughing, you're learning how to accept everything that arises as just another thing. It's going to be there for a little while, it's going to disappear. And that's the way life is, and it's okay. It's all a matter of perspective. The more you practice smiling and being happy and uplifted, the more friendly you're going to be to other people. The more you're going to help other people. How do you do in a traffic jam these days? What do you do with your mind while you're in the traffic jam? Are you smiling and happy? Why? You know what everybody else's mind is like. Their mind's just like yours. Oh, I gotta look at my watch. Oh, I gotta go. I'm gonna be late. You can get into your worry and anxiety and dislike or not. It's your choice. You are responsible for making yourself happy, and you are responsible for making yourself sad. What do you want to do? You want to be happy? You want to be sad? It's a conscious decision. There's nobody out here that's causing you problems. You cause your own problems. And you manifest these problems. How do you manifest these problems? By your imaging. You image that you're always broke, you're always going to be broke. You image that you're always sad, you're always going to be sad. What kind of an image do you hold for yourself? Not what I want, but what kind of image are you keeping about yourself or about other people? Oh, every time I see these people, they've always got problems with them. Yeah, you're right. You're going to keep having those problems as long as you image that way. You image about physical problems and how they're always causing you problems. Yeah, you're right. Because you're imaging that. See, part of the healing is teaching other people how to image a healthy, happy body and a healthy, happy mind. What's the best way to teach other people? By example. It's that simple. nothing is that simple. Well, sure it is. The Buddha was actually brilliant at showing us the simplest ways to do things. But we like to make everything so complicated and so intricate that we lose what he's saying. You smile, you be happy. Simple. Try it all the time. Simple. Easy. No, it's not, it's hard. What kind of an image are you holding of yourself? See how it's interconnected? Everything is intertwined. Your mind and your body are interconnected. And there's a connection with everybody around you. How do you want to affect them? Your choice. Hold the image of being happy and smile and be happy. Then the other people around you will start doing the same thing. Then they'll start looking for causes. Why am I so happy now? Okay, yes.
Well, you know, today one of the biggest problems you're probably going to face is that three out of every four people in the industrialized nations right now are taking some kind of drug for depression. So, can you talk to them a little bit about the handling of depression through the use of meditation?
Depression is easy to let go of. It's not a big deal at all. What is depression? A painful feeling arises. I don't like that painful feeling. I have thoughts about that painful feeling, and my habit is every time this feeling arises, I always attack it that way. The more you think about the feeling, the bigger and more intense the feeling becomes. Until finally you say, oh, I just can't stand this. I gotta go to the doctor and get some drugs. And he gives you something that knocks you out. So you can't even act like a real person anymore. As you start recognizing the importance of smiling into things and laughing, the laughter stops the thinking about it. Now your perspective is different. It doesn't take very long to overcome depression. It takes a while because you have to practice your smiling. And these thoughts, because of this painful feeling, they're quite often very similar, coming up over and over and over again. You have repeat thoughts quite often with depression. I hate this feeling when it's there. I wish it would stop. I want it to go away. Whose feeling is it? Did you say, you know, I haven't been depressed this week. I think it's time for me to do it. I'm going to get depressed. Nobody's stupid enough to do that. So what you do is recognize that your mind is trying to control a feeling. Let go of the thoughts and relax. See that tight mental fist. That's a painful feeling. Yeah, it's a painful feeling. That's the truth. And it's okay for that painful feeling to be there. It has to be. It's the truth. Allow the truth to be there. It's only a feeling. I told you a little while ago, I used to walk through the forest barefooted. And at night, and I'd kick a rock, and I'd break a toe. Now, that's painful. And as soon as it happened, there was the shock, there was the pain, there was the dislike right on top of that. And right after that, I started noticing that I was throwing my anger and my hatred into my toe, and my toe is crying out saying, "Don't hate me. Love me. That's what I want right now." So instead of getting into my anger for doing it, I start sending love into that spot. And before long, pain pretty much goes away. I might limp around for a little bit. And in a day or 2 days, I forget that I even did it. It's nothing. It doesn't matter whether it's physical pain or mental pain, it all happens in the same way. A painful feeling arises. What you do with what arises in the present moment dictates what happens in the future. You see that painful feeling, that tightness that happens around that painful feeling, and then all of the thoughts about that painful feeling and your habitual tendency. And I always treat this feeling in the same way. Well, after a few years, you should start learning that that don't work. Don't do that anymore. So what to do different? Well, let go of the thoughts and relax. Allow the space for that painful feeling to be there. When I broke the toe, it was real, it was pain, and it was there. And it was okay for it to be there. It had to be okay because it was the truth. Allow the space for the truth to be there without trying to control it. Now, another example. I have a silver tooth. I was in Burma. The dentist decided he was going to do me a favor and clean my teeth, and he broke it. And then he says, "I'm going to give you a root canal." And I said, "Fine, but you don't clean your needles. I don't want any aids, so give me a root canal. I don't want any painkiller." You know what a root canal feels like? You know how much pain there is? He did it. He gave me a root canal. I was sitting in the chair and my hands would get real white and all of my muscles would tense up, and I'd look at that and I'd say, "Oh, look at that," and relax. I saw the tension in my back, the tension in my buttocks. Relax. Allow the space for that sensation to be there. And I even had time to send the person causing me the pain loving and kind thoughts. And after hours of his drilling, which was only about 15 minutes, he stopped. And he started doing the other things that he had to do to my tooth. And I started noticing that my mind was bright. My mind was alert. My mind was very happy. Not because the pain had stopped, but my mind was very happy because it was so clear and in the present moment. Now that was real pain. And I've since come to this country and had to have another root canal, and I did the same thing. I don't like drugs. So the whole thing comes down to, is it my pain or is it just a pain? If it's my pain, I can't allow them to do that. If it's just a pain, then it's okay. There's no emergency in it. There's no tightening around it. There's no want to control it. There's only allowing the space for that sensation to be there because it's the truth. It's there. You do that with depression. That feeling is there. So it's a feeling. Okay. Not my feeling. I didn't ask it to come up. Allow the space for that feeling to be there. Relax into it. Direct your mind to something wholesome. Smiling. Now, when the Buddha was teaching the Eightfold Path, one of the factors of the Eightfold Path was called right effort. I call it harmonious practice. There's 4 parts to right effort. Noticing when your mind is unwholesome, has an unwholesome thought. Recognizing it. Letting go of that unwholesome thought. Releasing and relaxing. Bringing up a wholesome thought. Smiling. Returning to your meditation. Keeping that wholesome thought going. Staying with your meditation as much as you can. That's what that little pink pamphlet is. That's what it says. When you're practicing this, it is practicing right effort. I have some students that have been practicing with me for a long time, more than 30 years. And they finally started understanding that these 4 little things that's 6 in your pink pamphlet, it really works. And they were surprised. Of course, I've been talking about this for years, but they finally heard it. That pink pamphlet is exactly how to do the meditation. And that will lead you to all kinds of understanding and all kinds of insights that you never dreamed possible. The hindrances, when they arise, are your teachers. They're showing you where your attachments are. And they're showing you how strong your attachments are. And when you practice the 6 R's, you can let go of that. The Buddha taught 4 noble truths. He said, there is suffering in life. We don't need to be taught that. Everybody knows that one. There's a cause of suffering. What's the cause of suffering? The cause of suffering is craving, that tension and tightness. Relax. When you relax, you're experiencing the 3rd noble truth. That's the cessation of the suffering, the cessation of the craving. The way leading to the cessation of the suffering? Eightfold Path. When you practice the Eightfold Path, you're practicing the 6 R's. It's all interconnected. Every time you smile, you're practicing the Eightfold Path. Every time you laugh, you're practicing the Eightfold Path. Every time you notice that there's a headache starting to happen, and you relax all of the muscles, you're letting go of that suffering. You're practicing the Eightfold Path. It all works. Keeping an uplifted mind. Practice that uplifted mind. Keep smiling. Notice what your mind is doing in the present moment. Mindfulness is a word that's used very often, and it's connected with Buddhism. And a lot of people, when you talk about mindfulness, you say, what does that mean? Well, it means being mindful. Oh, you can't use the word you're trying to define in the definition. Mindfulness is remembering to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. It's remembering to observe. When you're smiling, are you practicing your mindfulness? You bet, it's getting stronger. The more you smile and laugh into things, are you strengthening your mindfulness? Yes. Not just a little bit. The trick is to remember to do it as much as you possibly can. That's the trick. So, what's your job? Smile, be happy, have fun. Are you practicing what the Buddha taught? You bet. Keep it going. It's that easy. It's that simple. You'd be surprised how many people come up during a retreat and tell me it can't be that simple. Yeah, it can. And it is. But simple and hard to do aren't necessarily the same things. So is there anybody that has a question now? What a great teacher. Yeah.
What are your dreams like now?
My dreams? When I have them, there's two categories. One of them is prophetic, and the other is very light. I have dreams of being in front of people and radiating loving kindness to them. I have dreams of being in with large audiences and saying things that make them happy. Those are the kind of dreams that I have. I don't dream very often. When I go to sleep, that's it.
It's interesting, the subject of dreams, because I used to have dreams that would be real disturbing and stuff, and I'd go and say, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And practicing the metta, you can take whoever's coming after you or whatever's not right, you can put the metta into the dream and change the whole dream. Or you can take, if there's some little devil chasing you, put him inside a capsule and then send him as much loving kindness as possible and just watch him try to get out. And little things like that. I mean, you can actually structurally do things while you're sleeping. It's real interesting. I think, medically speaking, it's really interesting that, medicine looks at it and says that everything happens from stress, and the stress relationship to medical disorders, both physical and mental. Okay, if you go back from a stress disorder, which is a diagnosis in a hospital, you go back to the seat of that, you get to the tension and tightness. And then if you look at the definition of what he said craving was, it's tension and tightness in mind and body. And if you look at the instructions, you're retraining the body to, instead of grabbing every time, into releasing. So what you're doing is you're freeing the mind of disturbing factors, but you're also freeing the body from a lot of things that are happening physically.
Well, the mind and the body are interconnected. You can't have one without the other.
That's what we do.
And
offside.
the more uplifted your mind becomes, the more it changes your chemical balance or imbalance. It changes things that are happening with your hormones. There's so many different things that happen with doing this kind of meditation that it's surprising that it's not more popular than it is. But I'm kind of a reinventor, because I practice meditation so much the other way, the one-pointed way. And when I found out what the Buddha was actually teaching and he added this extra step, I started doing it and it just blew my mind. How much deeper. Now, I had 20 years of practice. I was said to be very, very advanced with this one-pointed concentration. And when I started practicing with this extra step of relaxing, all of a sudden I was going deeper than I'd ever gone before. I mean, it was amazing. It was shocking how much better my meditation had become. Now, what's the difference between one-pointed concentration and what I'm showing you? One-pointed concentration, your mind is on your object of meditation, there's a distraction. You let go of the distraction, immediately come back to your object of meditation. Okay? Now, when you're practicing what I'm showing you, your mind is on your object of meditation, the same. There's a distraction, you let go of it, the same. Now you add this one step of relax the tension and tightness. What are you doing when you relax the tension and tightness? You're letting go of the craving. Now you have a pure mind that you're bringing back to your object of meditation. That one extra step changes everything, and it doesn't change it a little bit. It changes it a lot.
Really changes the ability for you to be
It changes your awareness of what your mind is doing in the present moment. When you practice one-pointed concentration, your mind does this and stays on one thing. When you practice what I'm teaching, your mind does this, so you can see things way far away that are starting to arise. And eventually you start letting go of all of those kind of things. And you get to a quiet mind, but it's very alert. It's not absorbed into anything. It's alert. It's awake. And that's what Nibbana is, the experience of Nibbana that the Buddha had. He called it awakening from the dream. Now, he'd practiced all kinds of meditation before that. He'd practiced one-pointed concentration as far as anybody could take it. He was a very, very advanced meditator. But he wasn't satisfied with it. He saw that there's still other things that were there. And the other thing that he saw was craving. He saw that there was this tension and tightness still there in his mind. So he came up with adding this extra step so it's not there anymore. And as you do that, your mind becomes much more alert, and you're able to take the practice of sitting meditation into your life, into everyday things. Now, when you practice one-pointed concentration, you'll get to a certain place where the force of the concentration pushes down the hindrances so they don't arise. But the hindrances are where your attachments are. Your hindrances are the thing that teach you where your attachments are and how strong they are. So, when the Buddha saw this and he added that extra step of relaxing, he said, now the hindrances can come up and I can actually start letting go of these attachments. And look at how much more clear mind is when you start letting go of the attachment. The people that practice one-pointed concentration, they say, well, my mind is so peaceful and calm while I'm sitting. But they go out into life and they're not any better person because of doing the meditation. And you need to be a better person. That's what the whole point of the meditation is. Learning how to be a better person by letting go of your attachments. So, I should get off my soapbox now. So, before we leave, I want to share merit with everyone. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty powers, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation.